Hi, I'm Angad, the Global Emerging Technology and Innovation Director at Aramex, and you're listening to the Purple Podcast.
Welcome back to the Purple Podcast. I'm Neil Ford, your host, and on today's session, we have a great guest lined up for you. I'd like to welcome Angad Singh, who's the Director of Innovation and Emerging Technology for Aramex Global. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today, Angad.
Thank you for having me, Neil. It's really exciting to be here.
Not a problem. So, Angad, firstly, why don't you give us a little bit of a rundown in terms of what it is that you do as Director of Innovation and Emerging Technology for Aramex, what it covers, and some of the things that you're up to.
Sure. As the Director of Innovation and Emerging Technology, we are essentially responsible for defining the products and processes and programs for tomorrow. And these are products which are going to be new revenue streams, processes and programs that can bring in optimization or enable customers. And that's what we're about. We're about deployment. And that's where we're quite different to some of the other innovation teams out there. We're quite focused on deployment and what we can register as impact. And over the last few months, I've focused more on emerging technology. That is the new scope of what I'm doing as well. So I believe that the next true disruption within our logistics and supply chain ecosystem is going to be from a digital standpoint. And if you look at the last big disruptions in that ecosystem were containerizations. You could get to see track and trace, where you could track your product throughout your shipment life cycle. But I think the next big disruptions are going to be both on the hardware side and the software side, and that's something we're focusing on now.
Very cool. No pressure.
Oh,
everyone wants their delivery on time. Absolutely.
We get known for the bad ones. We might deliver 1 million correctly, but if we deliver 2 incorrectly, we get known for those.
It's always the way, I'm afraid. Okay, well, actually, that's a nice segue into what we're going to talk about today. The theme of this podcast is obviously around failure and innovation. We bring corporate innovators on board in the hope and understanding that not everything's been smooth along the full journey of their careers, especially around innovation. We like to talk about failure because we think it's important. So I'd love to hear a story from you if you've got one for us today, Angad.
I've got a few. So when you told me about the theme of this, I had to think about what will I talk about? There's so many failure stories that I can talk about, but it all led to what we do today, correct? And I'll start from there. What we do today. What we do today is we define why we innovate. Now, there are different reasons why. One is you're trying to enable your customers, you're trying new revenue streams, or brand perception. Like you want your customers to know that you're ahead of the game.
Yep.
After the why comes what are you going to innovate on? All right. Which areas you're going to focus on. If you take a blue ocean strategy and you jump into everything, it's not going to be very successful. And people are going to ask questions after some time because you're a cost center. Yeah. And the third part, which is very important, is how. How are you going to innovate, the processes of innovation. The last part of it is when are you going to hand it over? All right. So these are the 4. So why, what, how, and when. Now, I've gone through different failures in each element, which led to why we defined it in this way. In my previous history, we were focused on innovation, which was purely focused on optimization. Okay. Now, while I believed it was focused purely on optimization, I think the eventual goal was perception. Yeah. Right. So I started off my career early on in the biggest e-tailers of the world, so the Amazons and the Alibabas and the Rocket Internet. So I worked in all of them. So I've seen what it is, and I've built I built logistics and supply chain and fulfillment networks and delivery networks from the ground up. While we were innovating there, it was purely focused on optimization. So I'll give you a simple example. We wanted to improve our packing productivity. So when you assume that in the fulfillment center, you have millions of shipments lying there and you order it, it gets picked up by an associate and then it gets packed. Now, what's very critical to manage the cost is how quickly you can pack it and how effectively you can pack it. Now, you can assume a pack center is just filled with boxes and there's a belt of some sort that is bringing the shipment to the, or robot today that is bringing the shipment to the packer who's now packing it.
As quickly as possible.
As quickly as possible. I mean, in some cases, it has to be under 2 seconds. In some cases, it has to be under 5 seconds. and that has to be a really good quality packing. And we were focused on how to bring in and achieve those seconds that we can save. So we did. We looked at, it was a simple data analytics problem, like what kind of products are coming in, what kind of boxes do we have, and how much time does it take to reach it? We broke it down.
Yeah.
And simple innovation. And we said, okay, why don't we just place these boxes, which are the highest utilized boxes based on the kind of products that we're getting in. And we have a simple system that tells you these are the boxes required on the day based on the products that are coming in. And they were closest to the associate, and we split them up. And it was a very good system that we created.
Yeah.
Now, what we ended up achieving is an optimization on our packing productivity, and we documented it and sent it over to corporate. We were like, hey guys, look at this. This is a great idea. This is based on we've created a tool.
We've done it. We've cracked it.
We've cracked it. We've been able to save millions of dollars if you were to implement this. Now that went through a cycle and successfully won us an award, a global corporate award. We celebrated the hell out of that award. I mean, it was like everybody put it on their CV immediately. Everybody's on LinkedIn. But you know what happened? And this is my personal failure, I believe, or the team's personal failure, is that it didn't get implemented. Because at that point, the focus of that innovation or that focus of that was not optimization, it was perception.
Okay.
Correct? So you have to be able to surely identify, why are you innovating?
Mm-hmm.
And if you are able to tell us from day zero that it's on perception, it will make it a whole lot easier.
What do you mean by perception? From a management perspective or from a frontline perspective?
Both. I mean, now I'll give you an example. When Aramex came into the game, and this is a personal story of Aramex, when Aramex came to the game, they were the true disruptors in the region. We were the first Arab company that went public on the New York Stock Exchange. We were true disruptors when it came into the middle and last mile deliveries in the region. Everybody has received an Aramex shipment in their life cycle within the Middle East at least once. Had a good experience majority of the time. Had a bad experience sometimes, but it happens.
Yeah.
But today, we are at that phase where there are just so many new entrants in the market where you get perceived as the older player, whereas Aramex was always the younger player. Now you get sometimes perceived as an older player, so we have to obviously be very conscious of the fact that we have to stay ahead of the game by creating these new products, associating with these new customers, and thus the perception is quite critical.
Okay.
So I am very cognizant of the fact that our innovation engine has one of the elements of it, of why we are innovating, is the perception of it as well.
Okay.
It's like some of the success that has come out of it, like our robots which do deliveries, or our drone program, which is the most mature in the network in the region, is, again, it truly disrupts perception.
So in that instance, it didn't get picked up because no one's really bought into it.
No one's really bought into it, but I think the success criteria was, we can do it.
Okay.
But we couldn't, it wasn't just something that we rolled out. But then that's a failure on what the objective of the whole innovation thought process was at that point.
Yeah.
That progresses forward. I'll give you another example. We were disrupting last mile, truly disrupting last mile in the Middle East region a few years back. And this is one of my older companies I used to work with. And we had an issue during peaks, right? Because we had grown so fast. We had taken a significant chunk of the e-commerce market share for deliveries in the region. And now this means that all the bigger players are watching you. All the customers go like, who's this new guy in the game? This is a new player who's coming. He's going to deliver my shipments accurately to me on time. So we came in and then we saw peaks came. And this was when there was this huge kind of increase in e-commerce.
Yeah.
This is the late 2010s.
Yeah.
And this is where you saw all of these new e-commerce firms come in. Everybody's moving from
digital transformation of the existing and then new players coming to the market.
And so all these guys came in. They're offering significant discounts. You're able to shop cash on delivery, get it after 20 days. So you buy now and forget about payments and figure it out later.
Yeah.
So we saw that we got bombarded with shipments. I mean, these Chinese players came into the market. The American players were already there. There were other retailers globally. There were local retailers. So we got jammed as a network, and we were a startup, so we bootstrapped. We didn't have the capability or the capacity to handle that kind of load.
Yeah.
So now we have to innovate. Now, at that point in time, we sat back and we said, okay, listen, what's the issue? The issue was that every time a shipment came into the network, the customer used to get a WhatsApp or a message saying, hi, we've got your shipment. And now, after 2 or 3 days, because of the backlog, they'll just wonder, hey, man, they sent me a message.
It's
what
just
happened?
sitting there.
Yeah, what happened? Why are you keeping it in your warehouse?
Yeah.
So then you flood your call center. Yeah, or you flood any emails, the customer support emails. And this is where, as a company, you'll be like, oh, they just, when we really wanted it, they didn't get it. And so at that point, we were like, well, simple innovation. How do we fix this? How do we fix this? Let's just stop sending the message. If we stop sending the message, and if we keep the shipments, and when we are truly ready to send it out, we send the message, we'll be able to truly manage expectations. And this is what a lot of players do this.
How did that go down?
Well, it took a lot of convincing internally, but then we said that, listen, the way we position it is, if we send out the message and as soon as it hits, say, for example, it gets into Riyadh,
Yeah.
and the customer is sitting, say, in a tier 2 city in Saudi Arabia, say they're sitting in, no offense, but say they're sitting in Qasim or something of that sort. And now if it had to go there and it's going to take 2 or 3 days to get there because of the time it'll take to clear it and the time it'll take to come to a warehouse, get sorted and all of that. If we send the message as soon as it comes into the Riyadh airport, it's already doing a disservice to the customer because now he's expecting it tomorrow, he or she is expecting it tomorrow. So why don't we just tell them when we're really ready? Now, we came up with this whole idea that, hey, let's do this, let's delay this SMS. And we came up with the process flow. And now this is, again, at that point in time, we knew that we are doing this for customer experience. So why are we innovating? We are innovating for customer experience. What are we going to innovate? We're going to innovate on the whole customer engagement cycle. How? How is very important now. Our process at that point of that was that us 3 or 4 guys get together and we just take this decision. But there's a whole digital leg to this.
Yeah.
Now we take this to our engineering team, and our engineering team go like, whoa, hold on, guys. What are you asking us to do? You're asking us to change the whole kind of touchpoint messaging towards the customer. We're already running a peak here. I mean, we're already backlogged in terms of our servers are barely up. How do you think we can do that if it's not even our top 5 most important things to do? And that point, we call that peak a failure because we couldn't manage customer expectations.
Yeah.
But we're a new player in the market. Now we've truly failed. Now you're truly failed, and that's where, as a startup, you're known as one bad failure or one good failure.
Yeah.
And it can be the end for you. Fortunately, it wasn't because we still managed. But it was a true failure because we didn't have a process of how we're going to get it done at that point in time.
Yeah.
We just knew what, why and what. We did not know how.
I'm curious, how did you manage to resolve it then?
We didn't.
Okay.
We just did what startups do. We rolled up our sleeves and we just started delivering it. We started crowdsourcing it, outsourcing it. We did whatever we could.
Yeah.
But I think fortunately for us at that point in time in my company, that startup at that point in time, everybody in the network failed.
Yeah.
And so, well, everybody in network failed. It just go like, oh, it's not only these guys.
I do remember that period. There was a time there where there was a little bit of feeling in terms of you could take what was being told to you with a grain of salt.
Correct.
Right? It was like, okay, we'll see.
It's not like today.
Yeah.
Today, if you get a message saying it's
today
coming into 24 hours, it gets to you in 24 hours. In those days, the digital transformation hadn't taken maturity that like it has now.
Yeah.
So you would say it has come, you will get it within 24 to 48.
I remember working in a previous role for a large retailer out here, and the decision was to do same day delivery at that time for digital orders. And you could see the developers team, the warehouse workers, the last mile guys' eyes just like go so wide and so scared of actually what this meant. But it got done, and now that's standard. And in fact, same day is like it's basic, right?
But if you go back to the essence of it, right, it took innovators and new innovation to come in and companies to actually offer that product for it to be rolled out at that scale where it becomes a norm now.
Yeah.
In Dubai today, we are fortunate enough to receive 15-minute deliveries on your groceries, 30-minute on your pharma.
Yeah.
You're able to get to one part to the other part of the city, eventually by these aircraft which are coming in, maybe in 30 minutes. And these are true disruptions. But then
got to
there's a
start
lot,
somewhere.
there's a lot of failure that happens behind that, right?
Yeah.
They were like, these were the 2000 teens where a lot of people tried same day delivery, but they just couldn't get it right at scale.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of those failure lessons and those processes got matured with time, and today they are very successful, and today they're able to hit that. But it's because of those failures that occurred there that success is occurring today.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is quite critical. It's an iterative process, getting it right, operationally at least in our world.
Well, there is that concept, and I hate the phrase, but you hear it all the time, of fail fast.
Yeah.
And it is a very buzzwordy phrase in innovation. You can throw agile and all of these concepts in there that I hear them and I cringe. But equally, at its base level, it makes sense. You want to experiment and test and fail as quickly as possible, as long as you learn from it, right?
Correct.
And change it and do things better next time.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, innovation is all about failing, like you said, failing fast, but deciding fast.
Yeah.
And that's why it's very important that the fourth element after the process is, when do you hand over?
Yeah.
Now, I'll go back to another story, all right? And this is from like an Aramex story, so it's quite recent. So we've been successful enough to launch about more than 10 products and programs over the last 2 years, which have truly been a part of today the shipment life cycle.
Yeah.
So they're in customer operations today. We've been very successful in doing that. We probably have the most mature hardware deployments when it comes to robots and drones in the region, probably some of the best in the world in terms of deployments. These are real robots doing deliveries to real customers today.
Yeah.
But there's some things which we've failed at. And I mean, we are an embracer. We've moved from the role of embracing innovation to defining innovation. But while we were in that phase of embracing innovation, there were so many products out there that we tried to embrace which just weren't ready. Like, for example, we tried the AI voice to replicate a agent on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
So, your couriers call you, right? Sometimes.
Yeah.
Now, couriers call you saying, hi, is this your address? Can you give me your address? Majority of the time today, the customers still tell us to call the end customer, even though we don't want to.
Yeah.
But it's a part of the process just to ensure that we are successful in the first attempt.
Yeah.
So now we wanted to replicate that. And we were like, hey, guys, I've got an idea. Let's get a really good voice assistant to do it. So we tried and we said, listen, let's try this in this area of the GCC, and let's get, well, obviously I have to speak Arabic. So let's get a really good Arabic AI voice assistant who can understand what the customer said and then navigate its way through that. So we created a process flow and we worked really hard. I mean, we just created a fantastic proof of concept. We ran it internally. Everybody was just super happy. So you're like, guys, let's try. So then it goes out, dials the customer, picks up, and the customer is a local in Saudi. He picks up the phone and he says, hey. And the guy goes like, hi, I'm calling from Aramex in Arabic. And he's like, why are you calling me from Egypt? And he cuts the phone. You're like, wait, how did he know he's from Egypt? Now you're like, because he had the wrong accent on. I'm like,
oh, interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you've got the wrong accent. So you don't have the Khaliji accent, which can convince anyone that it is a local calling you and it's a real human calling you. And while we were quite cognizant of the fact that we wanted to just try to see what this is, it was a massive failure because we just spent 4+ weeks of effort on that POC, and then it just,
which seemed amazing.
It got shut down in 20 seconds. In 20 seconds, it got shut down. Like, why are you calling me from here? Cut the phone. I'm like, whoa, okay. Why did we fail in this case? I think we go back and you understand that the innovation process had some gaps in it. The innovation process had some gaps in it, but also our end customer isn't truly ready for it, right? So it's very important that we put in the when to hand over. As an innovation division, especially from corporate innovation, you have to keep on defining. You have to keep on doing pilots, but you have to leave it at a pilot, and you define the success criteria and you leave it at that. My job today is to deliver a pilot, deliver a showcase that it hit the success criteria or not, and then provide a go or no-go decision. And if it's a go, then you hand it over to a team to do it. Because as an innovation division, if you get focused on delivering these large-scale projects over 2 years, you're not innovating.
Yeah.
You're just doing project management or digital transformation.
Or you're just scaling to the business, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're not doing service to the business.
Yeah.
So the when of handover is critical. And we learned that there.
Yeah.
I was, in my mind, I go like, at that point, I was still thinking, you know what? This will truly disrupt the call center game in our industry. But no, it got shut down by some guy on the other end in 20 seconds. And for me, it was like a huge learning.
Who's probably very unaware of the impact that he had.
Huge. I mean, I thank that gentleman.
Yeah.
But again, this is a real live example with something we took over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And we failed. But what we learned out of it is to improve our own innovation process and our whole scoping process and delivery process. That was critical. I mean, you have to get that part right.
Yeah.
Or else it's just not going to work out.
Well, you've always got to be clear on who you're defining your innovation for and why.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So if I was to turn around to you, Angad, and say, okay, you're starting on your journey. You've been through clearly a lot of iterations, learned a lot along the way. Three things that you could take away related to failure and learning from that. What do you think those things would be?
I'm giving this advice to anyone who wants to innovate in a corporate landscape. Okay. One, truly define why you're innovating.
Yeah.
And be true to yourself, and the company has to be true to itself at this point. As a corporate innovator, you have to be the leader to truly define why.
Yeah.
And if it's perception, be clear about that.
And that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
That's okay.
There are so many innovation engines out there who only work for the PR announcement. And after that, they go quiet.
Yeah.
But that's what they're tasked to do. And that's what they're really good at doing.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's their success. And that brand is probably known for cutting edge deployments, but they've not made those deployments, but they're known as cutting edge technology company out there. And it's a part of that perception. We have to be clear about it.
Yeah.
Now, after that, why, it's very important what. Now you cannot innovate on everything. You have to focus yourself. You have to funnel it in, and you have to say that, listen, I want to be able to look at, for example, if I said my why was optimization and new revenue in Aramex, then I funnel it in. I go like, okay, what I really want to focus on? Customers.
Yeah.
Okay. What will enable my customers? So I need to know what my customers are saying. But I also need to look at what is emerging technology out there that can truly optimize or truly disrupt my current shipment life cycle today. Then it's very important is how the process has to be clear. The process has to be well aligned, and there needs to be a committee that really falls behind that process, and that process is enforced at all modes. And there are themes to that process. Sometimes it's sustainability, and that's quite central to that decision making.
Yeah.
We have a quite open and a clear process, and that process goes through a committee, and it's quite agile. I mean, I love the word agile, like you said, but it has to be quite agile. It has to be like, yes, we're going to do this. This is why. This is where we've ranked it. This is how we're going to do the pilot. Okay, great. What do we need to make it done? Okay, I'm going to do it in 3 months. If you cannot do it in 2 or 3 months, it's not an innovation project. All right, it's just not. It's more for digital transformation project. Just give it to another team. And then at that point of time, critical, and this is the last point, is when you hand it over.
Yeah.
If you do not decide that, and if that's not a part of your process, you are going to get stuck on working on 1 project or 2 projects, while not doing true service to what's out there. Generative AI, a lot of people are talking about it today. ChatGPT came in, ChatGPT 3, ChatGPT 4.5 is just decades ahead already.
Yeah.
All right. There are other engines out there. Perplexity has come in. You've got Gemini that has come in, which have obviously got their own attributes. The pace at which this digital evolution is evolving, we're not going to be able to catch up with it if innovation teams are going to be focused on long drawn-out projects. Yeah. You have to be able to do 1 or 2 month pilots and to find the success and move on.
Yeah.
If it's successful, deploy, give it to another team that deploys, or else you just step back and like, it wasn't successful, like this voice assistant. The customer isn't ready.
Yeah.
Or we'll try again, with another iteration, get the product right, and we try it again. But you have to be quite clear about it. And without that, you're just not going to be successful.
I've really enjoyed this because you've hit upon the key areas, I think, that holistically corporate innovators have trouble with, because I think companies like the word innovation. They love the concept of it, But actually, it's not that glamorous, right?
No.
It's be clear on why you're doing it, how you're doing it, who you're doing it for, and what you're going to do with it. Like, as you say, kill it, move it, but be very clear.
Yeah.
And I think these resonate with all of us who do corporate innovation.
There's a nice little sticker in my office. It's very clear. Why are we doing it? Who are we doing it for? Just like you said,
Yeah.
it needs to make sense, or else, like you said, corporate innovation can be long run.
Yeah.
Like we touched about right before this podcast started. Like corporate podcasts can go on for hours.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're supposed to do.
Exactly.
Let's focus it up.
Well, on that note, then,
Yeah.
that's a good segue. I'm going to shut it down here. Look, I want to take a second to say thank you for joining us today. I know you're a busy guy. Thanks for coming down. Super interesting, and good luck with everything.
True pleasure, Neil. Thank you for having me here.
Thanks, Angad.